And I say a strict no to anyone who thinks that this is the book about Gen Z internet in India or young people internet in India, because there's no single internet that all of us experience, especially in a country like India, which is the point that I argue in my first chapter. Like, there is no one Gen Z or no one kind of internet experience all of us had. So this is, I think, a first step in trying to start this conversation, but there is no way to have a complete internet conversation. But I would love for more people to come forth with their internet stories, that for me it was like this, and for someone older it was like that, and now for someone younger. And that, I think, creates a more holistic, or a step towards a more holistic idea of what the internet is like. Yes, the book is dedicated to anyone in a love-hate relationship with the internet, which is also pretty much me, right? It's for me. So if I wanted to interact with friends, I would open a Facebook or an Instagram, and if I didn't want to, I would open my fanfiction.com or like Tumblr or whatever else I wanted to do. And if I wanted to look at pictures, I would open a Pinterest or then a YouTube if I want to see videos. Now everything is an everything app, so गेम्स भी मैं लिंक्डइन पे ही खेलती हूँ, लिंक्डइन पे ही मैं जॉब ढूंढ रही हूँ, वहीं पे मेरे दोस्त अपने प्रेगनेंसी की बात कर रहे हैं, लाइक मैरिज अनाउंसमेंट्स आर हैपनिंग ऑन लिंक्डइन नाउ, इंस्टाग्राम पीपल आर टॉकिंग अबाउट वर्क. So it's a little overwhelming. I think my moderator in the Hyderabad Literature Festival described this book as an auto-ethnography. There's been this white Western way of talking about internet culture that refuses to acknowledge location-specific realities, and Indian reality has to be taken into consideration when you talk about policy. To acknowledge the fact that this wonderful thing you've made impacts people differently. The internet can be the spark, or this space where you talk to each other, but I have little hope for a change.org petition or just something online to change the world. But I have a lot of people, I have a lot of hope in people getting together and changing the world together.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Reading List by Bahrisons Booksellers. We have a really exciting lineup of books this season, and the entire TRL team and I are so happy you've decided to join us again. Our guest this episode is Ria Chopra, writer and author of Never Logged Out. If you've ever reflected on your internet habits, found something you read online suspect, or wondered where the sweet days of MSN Messenger after school went, you're going to love this conversation. Never Logged Out, published by Bloomsbury, is made up of 8 essays, each examining a different aspect of internet life. Reading it made me realize that as a millennial, my experience on the internet is very different from that of Gen Z or X. So I'm especially excited to have Ria, an internet whisperer of sorts, with us to unpack it all. Ria, welcome to the Reading List. I'm so glad we could finally make this happen. I know we originally wanted you on last season, but now your book is out and we're talking to you. Yes. Perfect. So let's start with who you are and what the book is about.
Never Logged Out is my new book and my debut book. But before this, I've been writing for around 5 years about the internet from a young person's perspective, specifically the Indian internet. And I've been published as a freelance journalist by a bunch of national and international publications. I also create content and commentary content about the internet. So I have a bunch of people who follow me for that also. And these are just things that naturally interest me. So I had a full-time job when I started creating and writing, but it just felt like an extension of my curiosity. And it has now grown into a book, which has been very, very cool. This has pretty much been the focus of my last 1.5 years of work. And I am very glad that it is out in the world now.
I love that you say a bunch of people follow you. You're being very humble. You have quite a following and people who dedicatedly read your work and listen to your voice.
Can I say something? It has been an ultimate pleasure to get to meet these people in person now that I get to travel across India and do lit fests and events where readers come and then they remember where they followed me from. They're like, 2 साल पहले उस reel से मैंने आपको follow किया था. And I think for them also it's interesting to see a journey like this that has now culminated in a book. But it makes me feel like they're friends almost. It's people mostly my age, really smart people in their PhDs, masters, people who have startups. and all of them have different perspectives to offer, both on my content and also about the book now. Like, they come with feedback. There have been people who've offered so much insight into the book, like the way they look at it sometimes enhances your understanding of what you've made and how it's being perceived. So it's been so fun to actually get to meet readers and audiences in person.
That's so nice. And I've seen you interact with your readers and followers in person. It's definitely a fun experience. And I know you and I have had a lot of conversations offline about parasocial relationships. We'll get into those later. But right now I want to know, as a writer and a creator, what observations or experiences pushed you to write this book right now?
So, in terms of larger context, it's now been 30 years of the internet here in India. The internet officially came to India in 1995, which is a journey you will see described in the first chapter.
Oh my God, I'm older than the internet in
my
India.
God.
Great.
So it felt like a good time to look back on how the internet came here, the generation that has grown up with it and on it and because of it, and just the various ways it has influenced us and we've influenced it back. I also feel this is something that was in me for a while. Like, I wanted to do a book that is not a nostalgic retrospective, but more of a reckoning with presently, this is what the internet has done to us. And I realized it's not just me. If you look at the kind of discourse about the internet that is happening on the internet right now, as well as some trends such as your return to analog that has been happening lately, people want to touch grass, people are doing community clubs and supper clubs, and let's log off and, you know, meet each other in person, blah, blah, blah. I think people have started realizing the effects the internet had on us, and almost how non-consensually we surrendered a lot of our life to it. You know, it's that thing of clicking agree to terms and conditions and not really knowing what terms and conditions you just agreed to. So it's a generational sentiment, I think, that it's time to contend with the effects of the internet on us and hopefully then have that inform our journey going forward. So for me, the book was a gathering of those thoughts and feelings, and also an opportunity to do something this long form. And it was a very personal project in the sense that I also feel like I needed to make a book. Like, I needed to go into my thoughts so deeply. There is no hiding when you're writing a 10,000 word chapter about something, right? You can't skim over an argument. You can't ignore some things that are not in line with what you're trying to say. Like, you really have to deal with your thoughts. So as someone who's in like a quarter life crisis sort of time right now, it was a good time to sit with all those ideas, face myself and be like, what do I really think about this? And I think that contention and that tension and all of that also comes through in the book. So it's a figuring out is what I'll say.
And it's a work in progress because the internet isn't done developing and we are not
100%.
done.
And I shy away and I say a strict no to anyone who thinks that this is the book about Gen Z internet in India or young people internet in India, because there's no single internet that all of us experience, especially in a country like India, which is the point that I argue in my first chapter. Like, there is no one Gen Z or no one kind of internet experience all of us had. So this is, I think, a first step in trying to start this conversation, but there is no way to have a complete internet conversation. But I would love for more people to come forth with their internet stories, that for me it was like this, and, you know, for someone older it was like that, and now for someone younger. And that, I think, creates a more holistic, or a step towards a more holistic idea of what the internet is like. Yes.
So why was a book the right form for you to get this story, quote unquote, across?
Yeah. Someone asked me at one of these literature festivals, like, why didn't you just make a series of video essays? And I was like, okay. One, like I said, selfish, right? I wanted to get off the internet to write about the internet, because I have been writing on the internet for so many years. And every time you write for a publication, or you're making a reel, or you're writing for a blog or an Instagram, there is a need to be a little topical when it comes to what you're writing about, which means that a lot of writing is about trends or about, you know, shifts that are happening. But I felt a need to step back and connect all of those dots and be like, this is what happened. You know, you can have a piece about cottagecore as a trend, and like clean girl as a trend, and Pilates princess as a trend, but to step back and be like, this is what consumerism is doing to us. Like, I needed that space. So for me, it being a book created that space. it's also a nice challenge because when you write about something as quick as the internet, and you know what you're writing now is going to be published 12, 14, 18 months into the future, it's a test of yourself to see which example should I pick up now that I know and I can predict will still be relevant, 1.5 year down the line. Like, should I talk about the boo-boos, or do I think the boo-boos are going to die? Like, should I talk about consumerism in terms of these trends? Is this example the right one to use? So I think for me, that challenge was necessary as an author and as a writer to test my own ability to understand the internet. Very selfish also for me to figure out where I stand, because the book is dedicated to anyone in a love-hate relationship with the internet, which is also pretty much me, right? It's for me. So it's I needed to figure out where I stand, and I think it was therapeutic and almost like an exorcism in terms of getting all of that out of me. Like, these are my messy, complicated thoughts about the internet, because how can you be neutral or objective about something that has shaped you so much? That was there. But coming back to like a conversation thread that I entirely abandoned, but when you write about the internet on the internet, you have to slightly adhere to what is the current topic of conversation so that people click on it more, right? Sure. Or you have to mold your writing to suit the internet in a little way. So to have something that didn't have to align algorithmically, like I didn't have to write a chapter with a hook or be like, this is what I want people to read. People are also reading the book in whatever order they want, that's not necessary. So to have something so freeing and so tangible and physical that does not obey internet rules was a very fun prospect for me. I also want to start getting slightly more offline with my work, because I don't agree with how I have to mold myself to the algorithm. So this is also a step in that direction. I am also really liking people's feedback who are telling me that this book is getting them to log out and then read for a while. Not the purpose I set up. Like, I didn't think this is the book that will get people off their phone, but if it is also serving that purpose, I think that's also quite lovely.
Interesting. The cover. Did you design it? Did your publishing house design it? Your editor?
We had a very lovely designer that Bloomsbury, my publisher, hired. Her name is Akanksha. I was I am not a pleasant person to work with when I have visuals, because I'm not a design person, right? So I describe things in words and in vibes, and then like the person has to translate that into image. And it was a lot of back and forth, but Akanksha was so patient through all of it. I had some things that I knew that I wanted on the cover. It was important for me to have Michelangelo's Creation of Adam, like the hands there. It's one of my favorite paintings. It's on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel also. And the book opens with the act of creation, like the biblical act of creation. So to have one of the most well-known pieces of art in the world, which is a pictorial depiction of that moment specifically, and then to sort of turn that into an internet-y statement, because creation is also in the subtitle. Like, this book is about creation of a generation. So that fit really well. I wanted that arts reference. I wanted green also. Green has been my color for like a few years now. Before Brat came out, though Brat really I was listening to a lot of Charlie XCX while writing it. Lord also, I was listening to a lot of while writing it. So wanted that accent there. And obviously like the internet sort of thing. I think Akanksha really did a wonderful job in making it look like what the book feels like, which is messy. It's sketchy in the sense that we are still making this. I find it to be a slightly nostalgic cover also. The book opens with me being in school, right? And it's almost like someone scribbled with an ink pen onto a piece of paper and then like done some sketching below that. So I think she captured that really, really well. But a lot of workshopping happened, back and forth. She has created like 10 beautiful covers. I used to be like, can we do this instead? Even the name of the book for that matter. Like, this is, I think, the 5th title that we had.
What were some other ones?
Oh, I can tell you.
Yes,
so
please.
The first title that was in my proposal, the book was called Screen Played.
Okay.
My idea was that we thought we would play with screens, and then the screens played us back in some way. So I thought it was good wordplay. And then Chirag, my editor, I sent him the proposal and he was like, I like it, I want to commission it, we'll publish it. but you have to change the title. And his rationale was correct. He said it sounded like a film book, which is true. Like screenplays are something you associate. Like you don't think of screenplay as screenplay, you think of it as a screenplay.
Yeah.
So that made sense. And after that, I thought of a few more titles. There was a Macbeth reference, there was a Greek mythology, like a Sisyphus reference, all of that. But we felt that we needed something simpler and not that complex for a book that is also for a massier audience. So Never Logged Out is actually a line from the book where, and it's now on the back cover also, I think, where we say that one day we logged onto the internet and then we never logged out. And that's the tipping point, right? That is the watershed moment that defines this generation. So we just decided to go with it, and I think it's catchy, people like it. So I also like it now, but it took me a while to mentally stop calling it screenplayed. Like the whole time I was writing it, it was draft screenplayed. And I used to send like chapters to Chirag, and Chirag was like, it's not screenplayed, we can stop calling it that. But there was nothing else to call it at that point of time. I'm glad we got a line from the book for the title now, because it feels very organic, like the work was made first and then named later. Based on what it ended up becoming. So I like it. Yeah.
And now you're obviously not letting go of your username.
Yeah. It's memorialized on the cover along with the snake Vada icon also, which I have had now for a pretty long time. Everyone knows now why the username is the username because I talk about it in the first chapter. But for many years, people have been asking me, like, why is it Ria Chopra? Like, what does it mean? Like, was it a cooking channel? Like, what's the deal?
Oh my gosh.
Now everyone knows. So the next question is, why is there a snake emoji? Which also people ask me. That I'll save for my next book. Like, let's not reveal that now.
Oh, okay. A little bit of intrigue, a hook to keep your audience coming back for next time. Okay. All right. So what was the internet like when you were young and you initially started using it? And what is it like for you now?
I think there was a sense of excitement and exploration and discovery on the internet. I was younger then, so I think all of us were also just in that frame of mind as a generation. Like we wanted to play, and the internet was this brand new playground that had no walls we could see, right? You could do whatever the hell you wanted to do. So a lot of my early childhood was spent on multiplayer, like game websites. There was a lot of blogs that you could read. I think quite early in my teens, I then made a Tumblr also. Tumblr was like the second or third platform that I joined. It was Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, like something like that, I think.
Yeah.
It's not that popular now, but back then, it was also a very cool time to be a part of fandoms.
Yeah.
Fandoms were a big part of my early internet experience. So even on Facebook, we were tagging each other in, which house do you belong to in Hogwarts, sort of stuff. Or like Percy Jackson memes were happening. Twilight came out that year. Hunger Games came out at that time. Divergent came out at that time. Very good time to books and then movie adaptations, right? I think Harry Potter books to jaldi aa gaye the. I was around for the movies. I was around for when the final Harry Potter book was. I remember waiting for it. Like I was waiting for it. Like I was in the fandom and waiting for it.
You lined up.
Yeah. So very good time to be a fan, like a young fan of something online. Tumblr was also a very cool place to experience like fan art and people talking about headcanons. Do you know headcanons?
No.
Headcanons are stories that people make based off the books, like spin-offs. It's like fan fiction, but shorter.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. A fun fact or the trivia, and then it becomes like a chain mail.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so I was on email quite a lot. I'm on email quite a lot now for different purposes. But yeah, it was just playful and fun, and you had a sense of community and expression and exploration that I think is a little missing from the internet now. Like you said, like it's different, it feels different because we're on the same one or two platforms the whole time. Like sometimes I don't even go outside of Instagram, usi mein link tab jata hai. Shopping bhi usi mein ho jati hai ab to. Facebook I don't open, it's died out, but Reddit I'm a little bit in on now. It feels darker. Maybe I'm just older and I don't have those rose-tinted glasses thing going on. But it feels a little less playful. There's not much room to play. I try to preserve some of that playfulness on my Instagram. Like it's still, this is what I was just doing something fun and I found this out and blah, blah, because I want to preserve that feeling of the internet as being a good thing, because I think it gives us something to aspire for. Like the internet was that and it can still be that. So we need to say no to the companies and the conglomerates who are trying to encroach on our internet and make it like this attention harvesting platform, which it has low-key sort of become now.
Yeah, I guard my For You page or Explore page so tightly. As soon as I see something that I don't like or I don't want on there, I will actively go and like not
show me.
interested.
Yeah,
like actively. I don't want any of
Love
that
that.
shit
Yeah,
here because my Explore feed is makeup, skincare, books, and animals.
Yeah.
That's all.
Can I ask you why you have a private account?
I have a private account because I feel like there are some parts of my life that I just don't want to share with strangers. And again, because I think for me, Instagram is just a more personal space, I want to maintain that. So even if I see you at work or if you get to know me through my podcast is the open channel where you can have access to me, but I don't think I'm comfortable with giving that much access to everybody in the world about me and my life and the people in it. So, yeah.
I think I still have the same account that I made when I was 13. It's been Ria Chopra like the whole time. And at some point of time, I set it to public and then it stayed public. And I was writing, so I used to put my writing. People were sharing it. Then people were following. So बढ़ता गया. फिर मैं reels भी वही बनाए और वही बन गए. And sometimes I wonder if I'd thought about making a separate private and public account or something, if my relationship with the internet would be healthier, because I have no private space. Like now, finally, I have a close friends list, which I didn't have for the longest time. But once again, I think for those of us who are a little younger, like you don't put that much thought into what you're doing at that point of time. Like I never had this thought of let this be my private space because there's a chance it might blow up.
So when you talk about the early internet, it almost sounds like it was something more optional. And your internet is more exclusive to you and the people around you, right? When do you think we transition from being online as an option to it becoming an absolute necessity?
I wouldn't describe it as being optional, honestly, because when you're young and all your friends have smartphones and they're on Instagram, then getting on Instagram is not an option. It's something you do to fit in. Like I had to beg my parents for a phone and all of that, right? So for a lot of us, it was also कि it seems कि दुनिया इस डायरेक्शन में हेड करी है and हमारे peers ये कर रहे हैं, so let us do that. So in that sense of peer pressure or collective movement, it didn't so much feel like an option. Like if you ask a young kid today, is using AI in your homework an option? They will probably say no, everyone else is doing it, so I have to do it too, and the people expect that you do it, blah blah blah. But I think it felt a lot more agentic in the sense that you had a lot more control over what you could do. Versus now that Instagram will show me an ad whether I like it or not. After 3 reels that I genuinely want to see, there will be 2 ads that I do not want to see. It felt more of a like you were a respected party on the internet earlier. Like you had room to play, to grow, to choose what you wanted to interact with and what not. I think that's also because there were separate websites. So if I wanted to interact with friends, I would open a Facebook or an Instagram. And if I didn't want to, I would open my fanfiction.com or like Tumblr or whatever else I wanted to do. And if I wanted to look at pictures, I would open a Pinterest or then a YouTube if I want to see videos. Now everything is an everything app, So games भी मैं LinkedIn पे ही खेलती हूँ. LinkedIn पे ही मैं जॉब ढूंढ रही हूँ. वहीं पे मेरे दोस्त अपने pregnancy की बात कर रहे हैं. Like marriage announcements are happening on LinkedIn now. Instagram, people are talking about work. So it's a little overwhelming. I think I also feel like there was a healthier limit to going offline when we were younger, in the sense that when there was still a desktop, I would play for like a couple of hours and then you step away and do something else. You go down to play or to to the park or to hang out with your family. Now, because of personal devices, like, we're never logged out. That's the point. Like the shift to smartphones and hence the shift to not logging out makes a lot of internet interaction very involuntary, because even when I'm talking to you, if my phone buzzes in my pocket right now, I'm suddenly in the online mode, right? Kya aaya hoga? Like, is it Instagram? Is it the reel I posted yesterday? Is it WhatsApp? Is my Amazon order delivering? So I think that existence of so many things online and the ability to be in touch all the time has really changed the game.
Wow. When did you get your first phone?
So my sister and I had a shared phone. I think when I was in 9th and she was in 11th, we had a 2-year age gap. I got my personal phone when I was in 10th or 11th. So we spent some time sharing it, and then it was like, okay, now we need separate devices, like we need our own Instagram, all that. Space chahiye basically. So I was late to the game. Like a lot of my friends I never had a BlackBerry, for instance. There was a time when everyone had Blackberries. So there was that whole like transition that I sort of missed, but I got a device in my late teens. Yeah.
Interesting. So then I guess the penetration of the internet further down then leads me to a conversation about access, geography, and income, right? Because there was a time when the internet was so expensive that not everybody, just having a computer was a big thing.
Exactly.
And then beyond that, having dial-up was also an added thing, because cost, yes, but we didn't have dial-up connections everywhere in the country. So what does that experience of the internet for people who didn't have early access to it, how did that change? And do you think their experience of the internet, maybe somebody your age, who got access to it later, would be experiencing a different internet than the one that you are?
100%. I think Indian society is cracked alongside so many fissures, and all of those fissures show up as factors that determine who get access to the internet, not just earlier, but also today. Like, still today, rates of access to the internet differ in terms of gender, because women just get phones later or access to the internet later, especially in rural areas or more conservative parts of the country. Like, it's just, you still have Khap Panchayat saying that women wear jeans and get phones, and that's incorrect and morally wrong. Gender is a big line that determines internet access. Class, obviously, income, and we can delve deeper into that later. Caste is still a line that affects who gets access to the internet, because I think it also intermingles them with class historically. I think things like region, religion, community, or like the language that you speak, once you're on the internet, start determining your experience there. Because of the depth of, say, language barriers or the kinds of communal tensions that we're seeing here, like they start affecting the experience you have with other people. But yes, like class in terms of income stays one of the biggest ones, simply due to like access to tech, right? Tech is expensive, was even more so. Every time I talk about this, like when I talk about my bachpan ka internet and I say something like, all my friends had, I said it 10 minutes ago, like everyone had Blackberries and I didn't. It's like, it's such a first word problem, but it matters because as a child, you see cooler people experiencing things that you don't have access to. Like, it's basically just that. And divide that with 100x and put that in perspective of an entire country. Like, this is a country where the 1% or the 5% or the 10% have access to this whole new world, which gives them not just pop cultural access, but access to opportunity and like personal development, a language of a globalized world, so to say, that the rest of the people simply don't. And for 1.5 decades, it was like that. I think post 2005 is when you see relatively cheaper broadband plans start coming in. Like, the Indian government opened up the market to private players, Wi-Fi got cheaper, dial-up got cheaper, so you have households getting access to more internet. My household, for instance, got access to, like, we had our first computer in 2004-5.
Okay.
So that's still a while after the internet was officially in India, and then personal devices came so much later. Then 2016, you had that watershed moment of Geo coming in and revolutionizing the internet game. Like, now there's lakhs and like, crores of people who did not have internet access who start coming into the game. And the second, internet is cheaper, smartphones are cheaper because tech goes hand in hand. So all accessories are cheaper, which changes access, but then also changes what the internet looks like. Post 2016, if you were on TikTok before it got banned here, like the kind of content you used to see was so different. Instagram used to be this very polished, like elite looking sort of thing, and on TikTok you had almost content coming in from parts of the country that had just gotten access to the internet, which was a different language and a different way of talking, and what was considered important enough to shoot is different, you know. The kind of music that was viral. So I think you start seeing that percolate into culture also, internet culture specifically. But I am so much more interested also in how people feel when they get onto the internet. Like, how would someone my age, simply by accident of birth, having been born a few hundred kilometers here or there and from a different class group, now suddenly they're on the internet 15 years after me, right? So we're the same exact age, but our breadth of experience is so different, and hence our way of life in so many other ways also, but also in this aspect. So I think how it changes you physiologically, like it changes your attention span, what you are willing to do on the internet, not willing to do, your notions of things like privacy, like data privacy, etc. So I think that becomes a very interesting thing to tap into. And now we're at 10 years of Geo, and I think there's going to be more reckonings and more looks at how the entire game has changed. So I look forward to that also.
It's really fun to see how India and the different Indias are leapfrogging in technology. I was talking to a customer at the store, I think earlier this week, and he was from outside and he was looking for something very specific, like a coffee apparatus. And he was like, do you know where I can get this? And I was like, let me open Blinkit.
Yeah.
It was on Blinkit.
Yeah.
And then I told him that wherever you're staying, go to your concierge at the hotel and just ask them to get this for you, and you just give them the money. And he goes, how long will it take? I was like, well, it's showing 20 minutes. He's like, what do you mean it'll take 20 minutes? And this person was a foreigner who didn't live in India, who lived somewhere in the West. And he was like, what do you mean this will take 20 minutes? If I would get it at home, it would at least take a day. I was like, well, it's a little different here. It's a lot easier to get things here. And 10-minute delivery, I know, has been in the news so much recently because of the negative effects it has. But I guess also looking at it on the flip side with the positives or the difference in access that it's giving us, it was very interesting to see that person's reaction to be like, oh, you'll get it in 20 minutes.
I find it very interesting that, and this is also something I talk about in the first chapter of the book, like there's been this white Western way of talking about internet culture that refuses to acknowledge location-specific realities. Like for them, the global South is like entirely one thing. And then when you talk about internet culture at a global level, like there's a tendency to try to look at global trends, like Gen Z is the loneliest generation. But then
as a monolith.
With Gen Z, like that's a generalization that is only possible in a world where everyone got access to the internet at the same time, and also where things operate the way they do in the West, right? Which doesn't work here. Blinkit is only possible in India because of the amount of cheap labor that is available, the lack of labor laws that allows that exploitation, and the desperation of people to work because the economy is down and there's no job, so you take whatever you have. So specific nuances like that are not there in global conversations around internet culture. So when you talk about the impact of the internet on a generation, how then can you ignore local realities? Like how can you ignore the gendered experience in a country like India where gender is still cause of death, class experience, caste experience, religion? Like this is something I've started getting the opportunity to be on panels and in conversations with a lot of social media companies or companies that get to govern tech policy at scale. And it's simple things, right? A global company will not, at least now they've started thinking about it, but 5 years ago when this had started, like they would just not care about having Hindi caste-based slang be classified as hate speech online. That just doesn't get auto-censored. You know, fuck would get auto-censored. English abuse, gendered abuse would get auto-censored. But an Indian reality has to be taken into consideration when you talk about policy. So like these conversations need to be had with nuance based on geographical reality. Otherwise, हम top level policy बना के छोड़ देते हैं. And I think that is what has actually led to a lot of the harms of the internet that then we talk about. It's the refusal to acknowledge the fact that this wonderful thing you've made impacts people differently. It's not this one size fits all thing at all.
Impacts them in very real and tangible manners that do come off of the internet and into real life.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I want to shift our conversation a little now to relationships and community. Okay, there was a time when the internet felt more safer, felt more personal. So your internet, your social media may just be you and your friends, and maybe people remove 1 degree of separation from you, right? You may have heard of them, you may have seen them, maybe you're not good friends with them, but acquaintances. Now it kind of seems like we know so much about everyone.
Yeah.
Whether we know them or not, we know them, right? And this goes back to our conversation before on private accounts, personal, like private public accounts. What is your experience on that, and what is your take on that?
I think there's definitely been a shift from a friends first internet experience to a followers first internet experience, both in terms of you being the poster, but also you being the consumer. Like now we consume a lot less content or updates from our friends and a lot more from people we don't know. And I think psychologically there's a blurring of lines, because if I see an influencer's wedding picture and then my friend's wedding picture, I'm gonna think she's my friend, you know, like I'm gonna club that mentally, just shorthand that both into the same bucket. So I think there's a very understandable blurring of boundaries that are happening. Our conversation about parasocial relationships also fits in here. Like, how do you not do that when that's what you're seeing, especially in a post-COVID lockdowns reality where for a while this was everything. Like this was the only interaction you had with all of your friends, and then also with so many people who were not your friends, but now it feels like it. And obviously market forces realizing that people buy more when they feel like a friend is recommending it to them, which has led to this huge pumping of money into influencer marketing. Earlier it was considered a status symbol to say hashtag ad, like, you know, someone's paying me to tell you that this makeup product is good. People used to really wait for makeup bloggers, YouTube, like makeup gurus to put a collaboration video with the new palette of Maybelline. And I'm talking about all these old influencers like your Tati and all of that used to be there. And now suddenly it's so much more lucrative to not say when something's an ad, because I would buy more if I thought this is a genuine recommendation. So I think there's an organic blurring of lines, but there's also a very markedly like thought out blurring of lines where it's in the interest of commerce for us to feel like everyone is our friend and they're believable and reliable. And there's some good of it also. I think people are really genuinely finding community still online. But I think there's always that thing of you're just also a pawn in a larger market game.
That's so interesting you say that, because at one point they were called hashtag ads. Now they're called hashtag whatever brand name partner.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than मैं आपको कुछ बेच रही हूँ. I believe in this brand so much that I'm going to partner with them and therefore I'm going to promote their stuff to you.
And these seem to be small things, but vocabulary and language is such a powerful way to influence things. It was YouTube, for instance, that first started calling their influencers creator, because it feels like an empowering word. Like you're making things, you know, you're like Edison, like you're a creator, like it's that. And I don't mean this in a derogatory way. I think YouTube is genuinely one of those platforms that has had pretty fair policies in terms of paying creators well and genuinely taking their feedback on what features, etc. should be there. But I think language matters so much on the internet because we are consuming so many words on the daily that one instead of the other. I think our tonality changes when someone introduces themselves as an influencer versus as a creator. Like perception changes, and not just that word. So many, like partner versus ad, like even collaboration versus ad.
Yeah.
It's very small things, but they change how we are looking at it subconsciously. And I think we should start talking about them more.
Like we've discussed, the internet has changed from something that was more personal, more family, friend oriented, to something that is now including strangers, there's collaboration, there's ads, there's all this jazz. We've also seen a shift in what matters on the internet, because at one point it was what you were putting out, the quality of that show, but now it's more metrics, your followers, your reach, your engagement. How do you think all of that is shaping how we see ourselves, but also how we are interacting with people online and offline?
Yeah. I think the second you start seeing yourself in numbers, it's a problem. And any kind of numbers, weight, height, the second you like salary, like this is what is correct, and anything beyond this is unacceptable to me. Same with metrics online. I see it now with book sales because I'm getting numbers as to how many people. It becomes unhealthy, I think, when you start focusing more on quantitative than the qualitative aspects. Like, am I feeling connected? Like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing online or what I want to be doing online? And I get to be a part of a lot of rooms where there are creators, where metrics are often discussed, and it's quite often people who are blowing up who are now not happy because it's like मेरी एक रील 1 million हिट हो गई, अब मुझे ऐसी ही रील्स बनानी पड़ेंगी ताकि मेरी फॉलोअर ग्रोथ हो, और समथिंग लाइक दैट, यू नो. सो देयर हैज बीन अ शिफ्ट टुवर्ड्स metrics a lot more, but I want to just start off this by saying that I think it's inherently unhealthy the second we focus more on numbers than on anything else, which is happening now in all aspects of life. I think there's also almost this strange shift that has happened in the last 2-3 years where everyone has become a creator in some way, even if it's not your primary job, even if you're making no money off of it. It's, you know, hi guys, or it's like randomly tagging a brand in your story, stuff like that. So I think the contentification or like the creatorification of everybody is also leading towards that look at numbers a lot more. But I don't think in those parts it's necessarily a new thing. When I was also younger, there was this thing that you used to have a follower-following ratio. Like the people who follow you should be more than the people you follow. So that's always been a status marker, still is.
Sure.
So it's not entirely new because social media is based on numbers, right? How else do you measure who is popular online? And when you have a space like an Instagram or a Twitter or anything, who is popular online matters a lot because then you're the leader in that feed or you're the number one influencer, etc. And the only way you do that is by looking at numbers. Instagram does have a feature where, for instance, you can turn off the number of likes on your when no one can see. But does that work? Like, do you not want to see it? I barely see anyone using that feature at all because I think we also want to see proof of success and proof of measurement. We are so used to getting like marks. And that's marks for me, right? Kitne likes hai mere post pe. So there's a very unhealthy dependence on numerics. I'm seeing smaller changes now, specifically from younger people who are either moving to platforms where numbers matter less, like a Pinterest. There's a shift back to Tumblr a little bit, where followers don't really matter. Closed accounts are becoming a new thing, like Finstars once again. So I think there's maybe a desire to break free of that numerical or the pressures of the numerical success. But I don't know if that's also like a trend or if it will last.
So, as a creator and writer, have you then seen a change in your own behaviors online or your hobbies or attention span, given that now you have critically assessed and thought about your experience online?
I think the book has really changed it. The years I spent writing the book and post-publication, the ability to immerse myself in offline conversation about my work is making me feel so fulfilled. I want to do it more. So I see a natural resistance in me for the last couple of months. I think I've posted like 2 reels, I want to say, like something. I just can't bring myself to do that. Maybe it's a phase, maybe it's a permanent change. I look forward to whatever it may be. I think it's it's healthy for me to be this disconnected, at a healthy disconnection with what I post. If I were a full-time creator, this would be a problem because then this is my money. Like मेरा घर वैसे चलता है तो अगर मैं video नहीं बनाऊंगी तो क्या होगा? So I think I have the privilege of being like, okay, I'm focusing on this for now. This is also the account I've had since I grew up. So this is also very me. And I have fun being online. I grew up online. I remember the fun of it, and I've tried to hold on to that. So I'm not also ready to leave it entirely. There are times like now where I feel like maybe it's a good time to be offline, recharge myself, but I find myself coming back because it is so I like it, The second it starts being not fun, I think you have to question, and that can be in whatever aspect. You start feeling too watched, you catch yourself checking your behavior or your mannerism or your appearance for the online audience. You catch yourself curating to specifically lying. I think there are signs that you can keep an eye out for. You become too dependent on validation. There was a period of time, 2022, where I started thinking in tweets. Then I used to tweet a lot. I was big on Twitter before I was big on Instagram. There was a period of time, like now it's Instagram first. But, so, whenever something used to happen to me, mentally I used to condense it into like 140 characters, 250 characters.
How would you describe this interaction as a tweet right now?
नहीं अब मैं उस मोड में नहीं हूँ. Like I haven't thought like that for a very long time. But I would have like made something funny and witty and hilarious out of it that would have blown up. उस टाइम पे मैं जो भी करती थी वो पता नहीं viral. Sometimes platforms push you. I do not even pretend to understand how the algorithms are working. But it was fun while it lasted. But I think that started feeling unhealthy to me. So I, kept it. Not everything needs to be a meme or a condensed version of itself. Yeah. So I think there's been that love-hate relationship has been there, right? But I find myself circling back once in a while. What I've fiercely held on to is that there are parts of my life that I do not put online. That's pre-book. That has just always been there. My family is not there so much. My relationship is not there so much. It's just stuff where other people are involved who, like, just because someone in your life is a visible figure online does not mean you have to be. And that does not have to be the, the monster on my back. Ke, agar tumhe ye life mein ho, to tum meri feet pe jaogi. Like, that's not something you want to put on someone. So that is there. I don't talk about work. Like, I talk about my visible work, but I do a lot of work behind the scenes that I just don't want to talk about. So that is there. And there are hobbies that I've held on to that are very, very offline that I think help me log off. Reading is one of them. I've just been a reader the whole time. I am into sports of different kinds. Like, I just like body movement. So, like, I did like yoga for the year. I do Pilates. I do swimming. So whatever I'm doing, it just helps me keep my device away and log off. And I do quizzing, which is something I do talk about in the book also, something I've been doing for years now. You just can't use your phone while you quiz. You're not allowed to. And what's the fun, if you're just looking up answers anyway. And the thrill of using your brain to decode a question is so much better than the high scrolling gives you. Yeah. So that's there. And I love hanging out with people. So I'm a very present person. Like, I do not feel the need to look at my phone when so I want to keep those boundaries strict. And I've tried to, and it's been working so far. So in some ways, yes, the book has changed my relationship and my writing has changed my relationship with the internet. But I think in some ways, I am able to do this work because of my relationship with the internet, which has been careful and observant. And I'm very visible, but I know my boundaries so clearly.
Good. So it's like a mutually beneficial relationship that you have with it.
Obviously, it's like fucking me up in ways that, we can talk about not on the podcast. But like mostly it's been mutually beneficial.
Good. I hope it stays that way. So we've talked about different platforms now a little. We've spoken about Facebook, we've spoken about Instagram, Twitter, there was Tumblr, Reddit also. But when each of these platforms were established, their reason for existing was very different from what it is now, right? I remember the first post that I ever posted on Instagram was a picture of a bagel sandwich that I was eating in my dirty dorm room all alone at like 5 o'clock in the morning because I was like, I have class at 6, I must do this. And the sun is just shining. It's a grainy picture. That was my first picture. From those days of Instagram being a platform where you post beautiful pictures or like stupid pictures for your friends, it's become something so different now. Do you think this shift from original creation and intent to what it is now has been organic, or is it something more intentional?
I think it's both ways. There's definitely a marked push from the companies themselves to want to be more than just a photo posting platform or like meet your friends sort of platform. Like a phrase I used before was the everything app, and pretty much everything wants to be an everything app now. Like Instagram wants it to be the place where you go to speak to people, कॉल भी उन्होंने डाल दिया है अब, लोकेशन भी शेयर कर दो, गेम्स भी, यू नो यू कैन प्ले गेम्स इन द चैट ऑफ इंस्टाग्राम, शॉप भी वहीं कर लो, व्हाट्सएप से पैसे भेज दो अब, यू नो व्हाट्सएप में जिफ भी कर लो, वीडियो कॉल भी कर लो, फेसबुक में वीडियो कॉल हो गया, ठीक है, ट्विटर में स्पेसेस होते हैं, वॉइस कॉल कर लो. आई थिंक देयर इज अ डिज़ायर फॉर एवरीवन टू फुलफिल ऑल योर नीड्स, which naturally changes the way the platform works. And then obviously the second a platform introduces something disruptive, like vertical short form video, now it changes the whole game. So by default, it changes the platform and the way users interact with it. But I think we can't look at social media specifically as a standalone thing. We have to look at it in context of the world that we live in. For instance, over the last 5-7 years, we've seen a rise in commentator creators or like news creators online. ऐसा नहीं है कि सोशल मीडिया की वजह से कंटेंट क्रिएटर, न्यूज़ पीपल आर बिकमिंग अ थिंग, राइट? इट्स alongside a declining trust in the way institutional journalism happens. We watch TV, we don't like it. TV journalism is at an all-time low in terms of trust. Look at data around the world. There's clear party politics happening in the way news is reported. You realize there's fake news prevalent even in places that you thought were beyond like fake news and could have been trusted with factual accuracy. So you gravitate to what you know, which is social media, which then creates or nurtures that space where it's like how life came to be on Earth, you know, like Big Bang भी हुआ, ये भी हुआ, वो भी हुआ, and it's those 10,000 things creating that particular. So I think we need to look at what happens on social media as that. It's also the mood of the world. Like the way COVID happened, no one could have predicted, but COVID has directly changed how social media works. And it's a purely offline physical thing that then changes the way social media looks. Trump getting elected in India, like what is happening politically, is changing the way social media works. It changes how political parties interact with it. It changes what voters expect to see online. You have in South Asian countries like revolutions happening based on social media being used as a collective organizing force. So I think these like the links between the offline and the online are so prevalent now. It's a part of our lives. Like we can't disconnect it from that. But we also can't disconnect it from the companies themselves who control what is being spoken about. Like even you can try to do, and I'm speaking in like very general terms, but you can try to do a revolution, but if the company shadow bans what words are seen, that's directly a corporate push changing a physical movement. So these things are so nuanced and they happen differently in different countries also.
So then I do want us to talk about how social media mobilization and activism does impact real life political movements. Because you see it time and again with younger people using social media as a platform for collective action. Right? But I'm wondering more about the longevity of those impacts and the consequences of those impacts on real life. So, for example, right now we're seeing or hearing in bits and pieces what's happening in Iran, right? There's extreme unhappiness in that society because the economy is stagnated, there's corruption, there is no opportunities. And so the internet is something that the government uses just to shut down conversation. And then people rise up because they've taken that action, but that is just the straw that broke the camel's back, right? But all of these movements are happening. It happened in Bangladesh, it happened in Nepal, Philippines. But what is the long-term impact that we have seen in the past and what are we seeing now?
This is a very, very large and such a far-reaching question to ask. So I can just talk about what I think
Sure.
and what I've seen. I have so much faith and so much belief in social media as a collectivizing platform, and as a collectivizing agent. Even though now the problem is that for your movement to even show up online, you have to make the reel and do the post and do the infographic, which means you're having to play by the platform's rules, and then this thing like of shadow banning and direct banning of accounts, etc., happens. So you have to play against all of those forces. But I still have so much belief and faith in social media as a information dissemination channel, as a space where people can collectivize, as a space that can be used to transition latent feelings in people to direct action. And we've seen this time and time again. I was online at the time CA and RC protests were happening, and we used to see a post and go. And that's what happens. You see now in gatherings that are being held in favor of Palestine, support of Palestine, fundraisers, a bunch of other things in India, students' movements. I think all of these collectivizing happens online. The idea is that there's a clear goal to also transition offline, to meet, do a march, do a discussion, have that transition to real change. I think one, there can be a slight problem if social media is considered the end of. I don't think so, right? I think it's a good way to disseminate information and to get your message across, but it needs, like, real life needs to happen, right? Because when you're online, you have to adhere to the rules of the platform that you're on. For instance, a photo showing the reality of what's happening in Gaza will be shadow banned or like removed from the platform. But if you put the AI generated all eyes on Rafah post, that might pass muster. So do you do that, or like what good then of the AI generated post, right? So I think there's all of that questions that come into play when you're just online. It's offline movements that I believe in. I believe in the collective power of people. I believe in people getting together, not just for community, but for political, social change. And I think that is what we've seen in your Bangladesh or Nepal, where you have young people using social media as a collectivizing agent, but not as the end of their efforts. And I think that is what eventually leads to social change, a government to topple. We can talk about what happens after, like who comes next. Maybe it's just another. Someone asked me that at a Kerala literature festival, I want to say, where they were like, the government fell and now there's someone new who's just not good for the country, right? That's always been a problem. Whenever you've had, like post Indira Gandhi, you had the coalition of people that then eventually fell and she came back because they couldn't hold on to power because their only goal was to remove her from government. I feel like that happens in history, that happens again and again. If we learn from stuff like this, but also continue to believe in the power of young people to come together, I think that is important. India right now, especially from a social media lens, feels far too fragmented to be able to set aside their differences and come together. I would love for them to. We see it happen still when you have a citizens movement against pollution, for instance, because that's we're dying of pollution. Like that's a thing that can't be denied or can't be party fragmented by nefarious agents, blah blah blah. But I think that level of passion and desire for actual change has to come through for everything. Sometimes things can dilute online, which is not always a good thing.
I agree. I think that like or reshare is important, but as long as it translates to actual action on the ground, you show up for that movement, you show up and you stand by what you believe in or what you're posting, because doing two different things in the same person is A, not healthy, B, is then a complete lie, right? What are the morals and the values that you stand for? I would think or hope that there needs to be a connection in what you're portraying online and what you say you support and then what you actually show up for. And you're right, the movements that have happened so far that have successfully achieved their goals is because there was mobilization online and offline. Whether the internet was banned, whether it was shut down, doesn't matter. The initial spark was the internet, and then they came out on the streets.
I think that is actually, like, the internet can be the spark or the space where you talk to each other. But I have little hope for a change.org petition or just something online to change the world. But I have a lot of people, like I have a lot of hope in people getting together and changing the world together.
How did you decide what to include in the book?
It was quite fun. I'll talk you through the process. So the book has 8 chapters, and each chapter looks at a different emotion or value or part of our life that has been changed because of the internet. Even when I was writing the book, every chapter had like a code word, a one-word code word, which was that underlying fundamental value. So the first one is identity, then we have love, then we have consumerism, we have memory, then we have anonymity, we have fame, we have knowledge, and then the final chapter is representation. So those for me were the values or the themes that I had picked up, and then the whole chapter is an exploration or a journey of aise hota tha. Sometimes there's personal anecdotes, journey, blah blah blah. There's a conclusion at the end. So I was very conscious that I wanted these values or these emotions to be as relatable as possible. So it's something that everyone has felt and has as a part of their life. But I didn't want it to be things that we're too comfortable with. For instance, there is no gender chapter in the book, which is something people have asked me. I have a lot to say. I'm a woman on the internet. And I think that gendered lens comes through in other chapters. But I feel gender's an interesting space to explore. But it's something that we already have very clear-cut views on, right? What is my opinion about gender? I'm a feminist. I didn't want to pick up themes that people already had such deep-seated, fundamental personal philosophies of. Second, I asked someone, what is your view on anonymity? Then it's like you don't think about that. What do you think about privacy? What do you think about fame, knowledge, memory? Who even thinks about that, right? So I wanted to pick things that are complex enough for us to not have comfortable personal philosophies on already. Because if I want to write for 10,000 words about something, it should be something I am also not that comfortable with. Like I should be discovering something while writing the book instead of writing things that I already knew, because I wanted this to be a learning process for me, and I'm grateful that I'm a changed person now. So I think I picked up those themes that wouldn't alienate anyone, but also wouldn't be too comfortable for anyone. Stuff that was fun enough and interesting enough for me to have fun while writing the chapter. Someone described this, my moderator in the Hyderabad Literature Festival described this book as an auto-ethnography. I've been calling it essay collection, non-fiction. If I'm feeling fun, then I call it creative non-fiction or narrative non-fiction. But I like auto-ethnography as a label because it's autobiography plus ethnography. So you're looking at your lived experience as an example or as an illustrative medium to then talk about like the entire ethnographical reality of a social cultural context or a group, which is sort of what the book is. So I wanted to also pick up themes that I had anecdotes about that I felt would be relatable to people like me also. Like हम सबके साथ ये हुआ, what did it mean or what did it lead to? So I think that exercise was also really fun, like to sit and be like, after these 20 years, what has been the most pivotal things on the internet that have happened to me? And then to write them. There's a lot that is not there, and maybe there's room for a second book, or I wait for someone else to write that book and have fun reading it also. But I think I managed to capture a lot of what I wanted to. And then obviously my editor had a say in what went into the final book. But I have like readers, beta readers who read everything that I write. Like my sister reads, my partner reads, I have a quizzing friend who reads. And I think feedback there also helped me make sure it was not that personal that it became unrelatable. It's general enough. And I think it's come through. Like people are resonating with it, which I enjoy.
I like the auto-ethnographer. I've been thinking about you as a internet anthropologist.
Yeah.
Because the way you've written it, it did remind me a lot about academic works that you would read in university, because you do rely on a lot of very respected writers and thinkers, and you quote them very often, you cite them very often. But as soon as something starts getting a little too heavy or a little too academic, you'll bring in your personal experiences. And then you're like, oh, this happened. And then somebody did this on the internet, and then this color blew up, and then this happened, and then there were snakes here. And you're like, where did that come from? But I think that was a very nice way for you to make something that we think of usually as a very light topic, a significant, legitimate piece of work that has weight, that has agency, has voice, without being too serious, which I absolutely loved about the book.
Thank you. I think this is important to me, and it's serious for me, but it's also fun for me. So I wanted that to come through. There's also there's like one page, if you go in order of who's being cited, I think it's like Freud, then a tweet, and then like Nietzsche, and then like a meme or something, like a YouTube video, you know. So it's I feel all knowledge is valuable. Ab kahan se aa rahi hai is not my responsibility to categorize. This is a more important source than the other. Like a tweet can be just as informative about current reality as a philosopher's work. So I wanted to also pick sources of information that people are we are likely to come across a tweet than to read the whole book, you know, if you look at the world today. So it needed to be like a medium that people are comfortable with. It also needed to be fun for me, and I can do academic writing. Like I have a degree in it. Sometimes it's too dense to be fun, and I want people to read it. So it needs to have that readability. It needs to make people laugh, but also make people think, because that is what the internet does for me. So I'm glad it's come for you also.
I want us to talk a little bit about microcultures now, because there are a lot of them, and they are becoming more and more mainstream and more bizarre.
Yeah.
And
Give me an example. Why are you laughing?
So
what
you
are you
mentioned
thinking of?
You mentioned cottagecore before.
Yeah.
What is cottagecore?
Now so there is coastal grandma core and all of that also.
Who makes these up, and what are they?
Very interesting question. Finish your question, then we will.
Let's use that as a starting point.
A lot of aesthetic trends start on TikTok, which is why as India we don't have visibility on what like how something emerged. There's memes where, you know, I was there when it was happening. Like the word soft launch was coined by this comedian called Rachel Sennott, who's now the lead in I Love LA. If you're watching that, you're not watching that. Maybe you should watch that. But so she had this one tweet, and I think it's 2020, where she's talking about like soft launching as like a thing. So now we use soft launch in like regular parlance, but I was there when it was coined because it was on Twitter. Something comes on TikTok, it's hard for us to be privy to the conversation around it. So we don't really know entirely where it came from, who's the one person. Like I'm sure someone can trace it. It's also very difficult to do in hindsight, because short form video is not easy to cite and go back to the source of. Stuff gets deleted all the time. Blah, blah, blah. Cottagecore, for instance, is an aesthetic trend that has been around for a while. Popularized during COVID, as all of us were like lockdown. People were doing hobbies at home for relaxation. You had your knitting, crochet becoming a big thing. So cottagecore is almost this pastoral vibe in how you live, and you make your own food, and you're baking your own bread, and you're wearing like a flowy dress while doing so. It's a visual imagination, right? The problem is today you can buy the visual. So I can have a whole line of clothing that is like cottagecore clothing and buy it. And you know, if you're a TikTok girlie who's wanting to embody that aesthetic, because that aesthetic is what is popular, or maybe it speaks to you, like, you know, you have a vibe with it, then buy my clothing line for like $500, and you know, you're the cottagecore girl. Same thing happened with this like that girl or Pilates girl sort of aesthetic that came. So instead of the baking, crocheting thing, now it's like we go to the gym at 6 a.m. and then we're the boss. It's like girl boss repackaged into a slightly more wellness thing. Coastal grandma, I think, is when you dress in like, you know, bada sa sweater or chunky jewelry, and like it's like your retired grandmother by the beach sort of vibe. अब इंडिया में तो ये सब नहीं है ना, क्योंकि हम वो एस्थेटिक लेके फिर यहाँ पे like even if I see a lot of brands in India marketing themselves as street culture. हमारी street क्या है? Like हमारी street नहीं है वो baggy, वो, you know, like it's a very co-opted aesthetic. I call it aesthetic, but it is pretty much a visual for you to buy from. Were it just a visual to look like, to aspire to, we've had those for a pretty long time. Like Instagram feed looking a certain way to make you look like a girl boss or to make you look like you were party girl, etc. All of these are also for girls because they're marketed heavily towards women to buy, right? But now it's becoming so much more consumeristic, and there's also new trends every second day because micro trends can happen. So even in that girl, you can be a professional that girl, or you can be like creative that girl.
What does that girl mean?
You're that girl. You're like
Oh, so
that
like you're
bitch.
just like somebody everybody wants to be?
Sort of, but it comes with. I hate talking about this, especially to people who are not privy to like the. But like you want to be that kind of person, and you think you can buy your way to it. I also feel like earlier, if you were part, and when I say earlier, I mean not pre-internet, but pre-heavy commercial internet. You could be part of a subculture. Like if I was an emo kid or a goth kid, the way I looked came later, and the way I lived and was came first. Right? The hippies in the 70s, for instance, had an ethos, and then they tried to live according to that, which is why they looked and dressed the way they did. Like they were wearing brands that were durable, sustainable, etc., because they believed in it. I feel that's quite easy now to purchase the look instead of having the ethos underlying it, which is also why you can be very quick to change from aesthetic to aesthetic. Like there are influencers who were like clean girl last year and party girl this year because it's that easy, right? You pick what's in, what visual is selling, what brands want, and then you embody that. Like clean girl, healthy, wholesome girl was a keep saying girl, and I hate it, but all of them are like trends marketed towards women.
I was going to ask you, is there a TikTok boy? But it's just TikTok girlies. I've never heard of
performative male आ गया ना वो है. But so like post COVID, for instance, and these are all based in sociological realities. So post COVID was say cottagecore time to rise because of that locking down. Fitness came to the fore because people were paying attention to health because COVID drew people's attention to that. And then suddenly Charlie XCX drops Brat, which is party, and now everything is party. And like she dropped it at the right time because indie sleaze was becoming like this sleazy 2000s clubbing culture was coming back in terms of look. So she dropped it at a good time, but then that trend skyrocketed. Had Brat not come out, would we still have become as party girl in aesthetics today as we have? I don't know. This will not make sense, I feel, to a lot of the audience because I'm talking about a very TikTok reality. But what we see there, have you watched Miranda Priestly in Devil Wears Prada? That cerulean blue monologue. I have that in the book also. Basically, वहाँ पे कुछ हो रहा है. You know, trad wife is becoming a thing. So flowy stuff is back in fashion. तो अमेरिका में हो रहा है, वो टिकटॉक पे आता है. फिर फैशन कंपनीज उसके कपड़े बनाती हैं जो मैं इंडिया में खरीद.
So now, next question from that. What do we do with an internet and social media algorithms and trends that are set by the West, that are consumed by the rest of the world, specifically in a country like India that is so rich in diversity and differences, right? What do we do with them?
Yeah, it's I would once again consider it a personal onus to educate ourselves about like street culture to pisses me off. Like whose street and why is the shirt 10,000 rupees? So it's almost ridiculous sometimes some of these trends when they transport here. Because we have such a different culture in terms of lived culture in India. I'm not saying people should not engage in those trends, right? Like that would be incorrect of me to try to thopo onto people. But at least an awareness of this is not what it is. Like even the clean girl aesthetic, like if no makeup is in, like if no jewelry is in, blah, 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 that is very different from Indian versions of beauty and getting ready. So how do you contextualize your two or multiple lived realities? I think it becomes a very personal dissonance question also that each of us has to address for ourselves. Like I'd say, is being trendy wrong? I feel it's becoming very environmentally burdensome now. So I would say to some extent, if you engage in every trend, yes, that's wrong. But on a personal level, I think it dissociates you from who you really are. Like if I take your Birkenstocks away, if I take your, whatever dresses in away, if I take your the row bag away and your Gucci sunglasses, who are you? I think becomes a question that people are not answering and instead resorting to shorthand, which is like visual objects to do the talking for them. And if those visual shorthands are very innocuous in your surroundings, like then then who are you really?
Yeah, that's very profound.
Thank you. Once in a while it happens.
We're coming to the end of this interview, and now I want to ask you, as a young person who started experiencing and being online early on in your life, compared to me at least, how do you see Gen Alpha experiencing the web and the internet and social media right now? Is it very different from how it was for you?
We did have a postscript in the book where we touched upon the Gen Alpha internet experience. I wanted to just have some questions. Book is entirely questions only, so वो भी questions ही थे, but we chose to remove that in favor of a tighter Gen Z book specifically. It's very hard to say where they will go and how it is. Like I said, multiple life disruptions like COVID, AI, a recession, growing up in a very tense political climate, all of that is happening, which creates mental stress and translates in online behavior. But I think there's some things that we can already see, and there's like 2, 3 I can just talk about. One obviously is AI and how that percolates into social media specifically. The prevalence of deepfakes is one thing. I think our understanding of what is real becomes a lot, like post-truth is something we've been using for a while, but I feel like we're going to genuinely be in post-truth once visual, and we already have photographs like pretty replicable by AI, right? So I think that's going to change our conception of visual reality. I think there's going to be a shift back to people seeking art that is clearly human made. Like we had, I think, a few months where people are trying to tell us that AI made art is also okay and blah, blah, blah. But I think there's been a pushback quite heavy. You do see some companies not disinvesting, but deprioritizing AI creation features already. I think YouTube did something a couple of months back. So I hope other platforms follow suit in terms of just how deeply they're trying to push AI onto people. Obviously, if it's profitable for them, they will do it anyway. But if there's enough user feedback, maybe they won't. I see in India specifically, I'm now in some random corners of like Reddit. I just wanted to see what's going on. I see a lot of gendered anxiety amongst people. You see that conversation happening in the West as well with your Andrew Tates, and like men are getting more polarized. Women are also getting polarized. Trad wives be women, yeah, trad wife content be women say aa raha hai. So I think that conservatism pipeline is becoming a thing in India also. Like there are teen boys talking about like alpha male ko to ye hota hai, and like all women want is alimony. Like you're 13, like, it's
Do
that.
you even understand what that means?
So it's a bit, I mean, we can't dismiss it outright because it's that conversation is happening now. So I think and India's already a huge gender violence, gender oppression hotbed. So to have discourse like this taking off around the world, I feel like that's a problem. We haven't had a direct Andrew Tate equivalent here in India, but we have enough people who are close enough. And I think there's a certain masculinity that is very in pop culture, in politics right now.
I would say this sort of mindset never
left
the
India.
country.
That's true.
So
That's true.
Having somebody like Andrew Tate or his equivalent in India is not necessary because it's already latent in society, in every society, in every town or village or city here anyway.
But the second it gets algorithmically pushed, I think the probability of younger kids seeing that a lot more is there. And the conversations you're having online, and then you see in how social media treats women. Like, I think there's been a worsening in the last 2 years of how people talk about visible women influencers or actresses online, for instance. There's a worsening of language. There's a quick assumption of behavior. Rumors are just spread randomly. So I think that kind of polarization that is happening is unhealthy in terms of the country. Um, all of this culminates in a social media that reflects Gen Alpha's worldview, but also worsens it and becomes a little toxic. I think then it is things like community and parents and older people who can lend that support or ear that becomes important here. It's important to start talking about this. I feel like India, हर जगह ही होता है खैर, but there's still a dismissal of, you know, kids तो online होते ही हैं, like वो video game खेल रहा है, वो Roblox, what is he doing, like have you tried to understand what your child is doing online? The fact that girls can develop eating disorders because of what they see online is just not a conversation that happens. It's what are you watching when you're like, what kind of people do you see? It's something that should be just spoken about a lot more. I do see a rising conversation. Maybe this is not Gen Alpha now, but Gen Beta about screen-free parenting, and I think there's an interesting change there, because for a period of time we had, I think that for around 5 years, babies को ऐसी phones दे देते थे, like
hyper connectivity.
Yeah, I think that step back is important, but then that is only accessible to a certain class who has the time and the presence and the freedom from work to be present for their kids. If both parents need to work to run the household, the child will probably get a device.
A certain type of a parent who made themselves, for example, be a millennial,
Yeah.
who grew up with the internet, who is so deeply ingrained in it now. So now they're like, oh, maybe I don't want this for my child.
Ideally, that realization happens. We can only learn from our past and then hope that we don't replicate that. It would be horrible to replicate. मतलब फिर हमने सीखा ही क्या ना अगर वही mistake फिर से हो रही है. So I hope it's better is what I'm trying to say.
On that hopeful note, are you ready for rapid fire?
Yes, let's go.
All right. What's one internet trend you secretly love but would never admit publicly?
I love like absurdist content, like people just dancing to Hindi songs. Like I loved Kanji Chudel, for instance. Or like there's this cartoon characters that come. Like I love like it's literal absurdist art disguised as memes. I don't talk about it too much because it shows that I'm hyper online. Like no, only I think 5 people, if I were to share that, would actually understand it. But also I think it's so brainless, but I love it.
What's the first app that you use in the morning?
Email now, sadly.
Oh God.
Yeah, I have to check my email calendar कि दिन में क्या होने वाला है. Otherwise, like for chilling, then it's Instagram only.
How organized of you. Email and calendar. What's something Gen Z gets unfairly blamed for?
Everything. I feel like Gen Z's become this punching bag of सारी problem तो millennial में थी, हम तो फिर भी ठीक है. There's this they're spending money on stupid things, and I talk about that. I feel like in a world that is crumbling, it's very hard to not prioritize yourself and still look at the world. I think people should cut us slack. Like I think many of us genuinely know the world is ending during our times. Now let us do what we want to do.
What's your favorite way to log off?
Quizzing, yeah. Reading also.
Okay. For you, we're going to do something different now. There's a round 2.
Oh.
I want you to explain these internet slangs to us.
To you?
Yes, to me, because I am a fossil.
I want this on record that Aashna also introduced me to some specific like internet trends and pop culture slang. Like you told me about boy love when we were talking about heated rivalry. So I also have a lot to learn from you, and you're not as un-internet-y as we are making it out to be. A different internet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What is Sigma?
So Sigma is a terminology that has come out of this whole alpha male discussion. So are you privy to alpha male conversations? No.
No. I guess. In general, they remain the same.
It's basically that. So in the alpha male hierarchy, the alphas at the top and the betas are who he leads. It's derived from how wolf pack functions. So you aim to be the alpha, and all the men who are not as good as you look up to you.
Okay.
The sigma is the lone wolf.
Okay.
So the sigma follows their own path.
Okay.
It's not that they're equal to the alpha. They don't subscribe to the hierarchy of the alpha. So a lot of lone wolf characters in pop culture, etc., come to be representative of the Sigma male. Like he chose to follow his own path, usko jo karna tha. So that is Sigma. So Sigma is not a bad thing to be, like if you see it online. Yeah.
Mewing.
Oh. Mewing is when you do this. Like to make your jawline pop, you have to touch
Suck
your
in your-
tongue to the roof of your mouth and suck in your like palate, whatever.
Okay.
You have a good. I also have a good jaw. So we don't need to do it, but it's a very exercise that you do regularly, or you do it right when you're taking a picture so that your jawline pops. That's called. It's in the book. And Chirag asked me, we had to put it in the glossary.
Guys, the book has a glossary
Yeah,
at the end, and it's very helpful. I used it.
Let's go.
Okay, it's giving.
Oh, it's giving is like this is the impression you get from something. So, like you're giving podha right now. Like I'm giving graffiti, or if someone's like it's something entirely different that's happening, but it's like two
Like
people.
it's the impression it's making.
Yeah, like two politicians are having a very serious fight, but we're like it's giving cat fight. It's giving kitty party, like that.
Got it.
So it's just a vibe.
Okay, canon event.
Something very pivotal that happens. That's where the head canons wala etymology also comes from.
Okay, okay.
The canon we use in English literature
Yes,
also. It's
yes.
stuff that is being
So it's just been-
pedestalized. This is
Got
what
it.
is important. Canon event is me like
Got
the
it.
event important.
bussin.
Bussin. I know it's like something that's happening. I don't know the exact thing. Bussin, I don't know.
Menti B.
Mental breakdown.
Okay. Let him cook.
Oh, it's let them keep talking. When someone's talking sense, I hope that people watching this podcast will be like, let her cook. Like, let her keep talking. So it's, like, let her keep serving us with the tea and with the facts and all of that.
Okay,
Let
okay,
him
okay.
cook.
Shuki? How would you pronounce that?
Shuki. I think it's a certain kind of millennial humor / outlook towards life that is a little dated now. So like, live, laugh, love, I think is Shugi is what I think.
I feel the judgment coming.
When I picture a millennial, I see you, Aashna. So I'm sure you had like a
I was
wall
not a
hanging.
I was not a live, laugh, love.
Okay.
girl.
What did you have? Tell us what kind of.
Nothing. I had a lot of pictures. I didn't have.
Okay, chalo.
Yeah,
That's good.
that was not my wall art
were
and
not
aesthetic.
Shugi. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Gosh, this has been such a fun conversation and such an enlightening conversation. As somebody who is, again, chronically online, there is still so much that I don't know that I learned from the book, but I also learned from you. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
For our listeners and viewers, I really hope you enjoyed this first episode of the second season of the Reading List. If you did, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And do go buy Ria's book. It's super interesting and you'll really enjoy it. Thanks. Bye.